welcome to our project panel experts session. So we have collected, or gathered I should say, not collected, gathered a group of fantastic individuals who will share their expertise in their specific fields with you. All of them are pertaining to the specific project for this year. So I would definitely write down their names and hit them up if I had any other questions. We're going to run this just a little bit differently than the other sessions. So this will be a question-driven session. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves, and then after that we'll get started with the questions. The method for question asking will be to come up and ask your question into the microphone, and then we will go ahead and have it answered. The panelists will repeat the question just to make sure that we have it recorded on the audio. So just make sure that you speak clearly and loudly so that we can hear you guys. So if you want to go ahead and get us started.
Good morning. My name is Lou Panarelli. I work for IWS. Before I started with IWS, I was a school educator. How many of you have heard of Central Unified? I spent 32 years there. I had hair when I started. I was a classroom teacher for 10 years, and I became a vice principal, principal of Biola Elementary, and then I worked for the district office. With that in mind, old habits are very hard to break, so if I catch anyone talking, not paying attention, you will be sent to the office. I will call your parents, and there will be a Saturday school. After I retired from education, I went into real estate for about a year. Then I went to work for the city of Fresno. I worked with this fine gentleman for 5 years. I retired from there, and then I started working for IWS, Industrial Waste and Salvage. With the city, I was a recycling educator. I in-serviced over 2,000 businesses in the art of recycling. I did civic groups, I did classrooms, I was a part of the Mayor's Recycling Award for 5 years. When I retired from there, like I said, I went to IWS, where I do in-servicing on recycling from preschools all the way up to Fresno State graduate classes. And I talk about how important it is to recycling, for recycling. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Eric Zetz. I've got a child that is in Dry Creek, I've got a child in Alta, and I've got a child in Buchanan. So you guys are crazy to come here on a Saturday and spend your whole day here. For anybody that's got children. But I am with the City of Clovis. I'm a division manager there at the City of Clovis in the Public Utilities Department. I manage the Solid Waste Division. I have a bachelor's degree in Public Administration, an MBA from Fresno State. The sections that I have 4 direct reports that report to me. Those 4 direct reports manage your, if you're all Clovis residents, your community cleanup operations, your commercial collection operations, your residential collection operations, and what is unique to the City of Clovis is that we have an active running landfill. Many don't even realize that, but we do. For your students, all of you are coaches, I am contacted by coaches to give tours and Q&A sessions. I'll leave my card at the end of this for all of you. So that should your kids need an opportunity to Q&A with me, they can. But City of Clovis has got a great area at which we've got collections. We've got an active landfill that has methane gas. We have a flare extraction system. We've got everything, I think, that your waste track is looking for. So I'd be happy to help you with any of that. Many of you are looking at me right now going, oh, he doesn't even know what we're going to do. But I have about 55 employees in my division, 4 direct reports that report to me that kind of manage those operations. Some of the challenges that we've got in solid waste, if you follow, which I'm on a legislative task force for Clovis, in which I'm in meetings in Sacramento and down in Kern County, up and down the state, we pay a lobbyist to lobby for trash issues that then affect here Clovis. And my main focus, we're 100,000 residents. We only got to 100,000 residents briefly because Clovis PD kept kicking people out of our city. So we've now hit a mark of staying at 100,000. But with that, there's a new law that's coming on. It's Assembly Bill 1826. And as of January 1st of 2016, it requires the diversion of 50% of organics. Organics can be food waste, it can be grass clippings, it can be all of those things. And this is something that is now going forward. One of the issues that we just, since 2008, have been dealing with is Assembly Bill 341, which was the diversion of 50% of commercial trash for those businesses that generated 4 yards of trash or more in a given week. So we are actively trying to stay up to date on the legislation that affects Clovis residents. And I think in your own backyard here in Clovis, you've got a great opportunity to seek out opportunity. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dan Casey. I work for the City of Fresno in Department of Public Utilities, Solid Waste Management, the recycling program. And I've been working there for about 14 years now. And my experience is basically in recycling, residential recycling, some commercial recycling, and construction and demolition. Okay, that has to do with basically a lot of commercial building and demolishing. But what I want to talk about today will be hopefully something that's you'll hear as we go, as you learn more about recycling and more about handling trash, is EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. That is the buzzword in our industry, along with zero waste. So what does zero waste mean? You might have some questions about that, and how does that affect robotics and technology, those kind of things like that. I'm sure that the people in the panel will be glad and happy to answer those questions. EPR and zero waste. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bob Henry. I'm the Senior District Manager for the Waste Management Kettleman Hills facility. I've been with Waste Management for a little over 25 years. I am an engineer. Experience in the solid waste management. I've had extensive experience with collections, be it residential collection, commercial collection, things like that. Also quite a bit of experience with once you get the recyclable on the truck or the municipal solid waste on the truck, what are you going to do with it? If it's the recyclables, you'll most likely end up taking it to a material recovery facility. At that location, then, most of the time, what you will see, or historically what you saw, was that the material recovery facility was hand-operated with limited technology was available to it. What you're seeing more and more today is a completely automated recycling facility. So I'll go over a little bit of that and some of the challenges that we faced as an industry. The other side of the coin is, where does the material go? Might go to a landfill. You heard talk about Clovis, the city of Clovis's landfill. At the Kettleman Hills facility, we've operated a couple different types of municipal solid waste landfills. We had the state's first anaerobic bioreactor, kind of a fancy name, but all we do there is we take non-hazardous liquids, add it to the waste mass, and what it does, it consolidates the waste much quicker. By doing that, having that consolidation, what you're able to do is put more waste into the landfill. What that does is you don't have to site landfills as quick. Also, what it'll do is it'll get the methane out of the landfill much quicker. What will happen there is, if you look at the amount of time that you're putting waste into a landfill and the volume of gas that's generated, it's once you put the material in, you're only going to go get so much gas out. By adding the liquids, you're going to get that out much quicker. Then you have a fuel source where you can, instead of flaring, you might be able to run a generator set, micro turbines, things like that. So you have some really some advantages by running the anaerobic bioreactor. Then you also, with those two, by adding that liquid, you make the landfill inert much quicker. So you have an environmental risk with the landfill, with the gas, the methane gas that's produced, maybe pushing out against the liners, what have you. You control that with the gas collection and recovery system. By getting the gas completely out of it, making it inert, it's much safer for the environment. Okay. So we went to an anaerobic landfill. We went to a RCRA Subtitle D landfill, Class 2, 3 landfill that has a full clay liner, geosynthetic liner. So if you have your recyclables, they go to a MRF. what you don't recycle could end up going into the anaerobic bioreactor or into the landfill. Coming back to the issues that are facing the industry right now, what you're looking at is the recycling that's going on. What's occurring is that you look at the recyclables that are put into the containers, the third can that we all use. All right, when you put that material in, you can have, what's occurring is it's being contaminated. It's either being contaminated with materials that are non-recyclable, or it's being contaminated with materials that are being put in there so that it contaminates the recyclable where it's not able to be recycled. Liquids, what have you, that might take that recyclable and deem it not a material that could be recycled. So what we need to do there is we need to educate the public a little bit better on what goes into the recyclable can to make sure that it is recyclable. A minute ago I said it was mainly what the business is doing right now, or the industry is doing right now. It's going from a more labor intensive to more an automated system for the recyclables. So with your third can, you bring it into the material recovery facility. The material is placed on a tipping floor, and then it goes through an automated system. When it goes through the automated system, provided that the material in is all recyclables, it works very well. If we start losing materials because of contamination or non-recyclables, what ends up happening, it slows the system down, materials aren't recovered. So by doing it properly, we'll get more recyclables coming out of the waste stream. We'll reduce the contamination, which makes the recycled materials, or the bales, the commodities of materials, bales of paper, what have you, it'll be a cleaner material and be better for the mills for as using that materials for recyclables. So what you'll end up having is a better product. It also, then it reduces the residual solid waste that would have to come out from materials that were non-recyclables or contaminated the recyclables that were in the mix. So you look at it and you go, what's the issue facing the nation right now? One of the biggest is that contamination that's in the material and our need to get that material out through education. So anyway, I'll be happy to answer questions in a moment.
Hi guys, my name is Charlie Borelli, and this is the Lego League Awards, I think. Whatever it's called.
Hi. This is Charlie Borelli. He's my son. He wanted to come today when he heard the word Lego. And I don't blame him. I'm interested too. My name is Marcus Borelli, and I have a background in engineering as well. And I spent 4 years with the NGO attached to Governor Brown's long-range planning committee, a think tank that's looking ahead to the next generation. Where are we now? We're going to find out today. Where are we going to go 30 years down the road is something that we pondered every day in the tank. And I'd be happy to answer questions pertaining to the next phase or the phase after the next phase. Currently, since my son was born, I reside in Fresno, and I operate a MRF in southeast Fresno that's been operating for more than 30 years. It's a buyback center. They deal mostly with residential waste, specifically beverage containers generated through the California bottle bill. The redemption value is attached to beverage containers, which makes the beverage containers one of the highest dollar-fetching recyclables in the common residential waste stream. So 2 hats. One of them's hard and the other one's not. So you can ask me questions that you think maybe I can answer. If not, I can pass it along. So background in engineering, currently in the commercial sector, previously in the non-GO attached to the governor's long-range planning committees. So there you have it. Any questions for Charlie? All right, I'll hand it over to the moderator.
All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you very much, panelists. So now we're going to go ahead and open this up to questions, okay? So like I said, we're just going to come up very, very loosey-goosey. We're just going to come up, ask your question into the microphone, and our lovely panelists will go ahead and answer that. Now, I should mention, just to reiterate it, there are a few exceptions to this year's project. So your students may not research sewage and gas. Any gases like exhaust, methane, any gases, they can't do their project on that. Any sewage, they cannot do their project on that. So keep that in mind when you're asking these questions, okay? So who wants to go first? Who wants to break the ice? No. All right, go ahead, brave soul.
What is current method you use for sorting the recyclable bottles, stuff, cans? What is current? You say now is kind of automation for sorting the recyclable stuff. So what is the current method you have? Like how to separate aluminum cans, bottles? Is we put everything in the same recycling bin. So at your factory, how do you sort them?
The question that we have is, I believe, is the current practice and the future practices that we have for sorting the recyclables. Okay, commingled recyclables. Right, so what you'll have in City of Clovis, City of Fresno, what they will have is the third can with commingled recyclables. You guys put that into the container. Their experience, all facilities are experiencing this. It's an industry-wide issue with the contaminated materials or non-recyclables that go in. What we like to do and what we've been doing in some of our larger plants in Southern California is we've automated those systems so that when the material hits the floor, we never have to touch it unless those contaminated materials are in the waste stream. And then they will have to be, some are guided out of the system, some would have to be actually physically removed, causing the plant potentially to shut down. So, but all those materials that are recyclable, what they'll end up doing is what these gentlemen also do is they'll be recycled, and how that ends up occurring is you'll end up sorting them, baling them, and then you'll send them to the mills for whatever it might be. It might be your aluminum cans, it might be tin cans, it might be the fibers, just whatever materials that are being recycled in that third can.
I just want to respond to that question in regards to the operation for residential service in Fresno. All three cans are commingled. Not that they're supposed to be, but they are. People put the wrong things in the wrong can all of the time. So none of our containers go directly to the landfill. They all go to a material receiving facility, a MRF. In each truck, the three trucks for the three different containers, green, gray, and blue, have a different location to drop those materials off at. And then they are, again, separated out for the usable recyclables. I'll leave it at that because I'm sure the other gentlemen have the same way that they operate.
Just want to expand on what Danny was saying. The enormity, just to talk about what the city of Fresno does. Think about this for a minute. City of Fresno has 100,000 single-family homes. That means 300,000 cans are picked up each week. That's 1.2 million cans per month, or about 14.5 million stops per year. That's just for the city of Fresno residential. That doesn't count Clovis and Madera or any other municipality. So that's a very, very enormous job. I don't know how much Clovis picks up, but he could expand on that. One of the most important things is the education, and that's what Danny does, and that's what I do. For us, or for me, just to tell you to recycle, you're not going to do it. It's changing bad habits, and bad habits are very, very hard to change. Before I worked for the city of Fresno, almost everything went into one can. I'd get a fluorescent light, I'd put it in the green can or the blue can, I'd get a hammer, close my eyes, and whack it. I wasn't taught how to do it correctly. And that's the biggest problem that we're facing, the contamination. All right, if people did it the right way, doing it automation, wouldn't be a problem. We have to change bad habits. That's why Danny and myself and all these other gentlemen, we start at a very young age. I go to preschools, to 3 and 4-year-olds. I show them how to do it. I actually have a fake landfill that I dump the garbage out. They come up, they pick out the things, they put it in the correct one. Then they go home and tell their parents how to do it. That's where we have to start. All right? That's where we have to start.
As waste management, we've recognized this problem all across the nation. We are the largest recycler in the nation by far. But with that, what we've done is we've developed a program. It's called Recycle Often, Recycle Right. You can go on our website, wm.com, or we have its own website for Recycle Often, Recycle Right. And you can go into those websites that we have. It'll talk about myth busters. It'll talk about a variety of things on how to do recycling properly. Again, it's the most critical item right now is to get that contamination out. What we talk about as a community is sustainability, okay? We want recycling to be sustainable. You look at the cost that you pay to recycle, and you look at that cost for recycling as compared to the revenues that are received for the sale of those commodities. If those don't match, then the costs have to go up, okay? Because they're not matching right now, so costs will have to go up. Well, you try to factor out all those costs by automating the processes and what have you. But the big thing there is, how do we do it? Well, we need to have the education programs in place.
Okay, recognizing we've got 20 minutes, did we answer your question?
Basically, I want to ask, so the recycling stuff, are you using conveyor belt to sort it out, or what kind of technology you are using?
Yeah, let me, for Clovis, and I think they both said that, you've got a 96-gallon blue recyclable toter that's at your curb. The truck picks that up. And for Clovis, that material goes all the way to Milpitas, to a Newbie Island recyclable multi-million-dollar MRF. MRF is the Materials Recycling Facility. So as we say MRF, Materials Recycling Facility. So it goes to a MRF in the Northland, and from there, it is a huge conveyor belt building operation, hand-picking, sorting, vacuum machines that pull out plastic bags. So the material is dropped on a tipping floor, and from there it is picked up and deposited into a big hole of that conveyor belt system, and then it is thereby sorted into its product streams. The various product streams at the end of their sorting, both by conveyor belt, by air vacuum draw, by hand pulling, it ends up in a final baled product that is then sold on the commodities market in a baled fashion. Does that make sense? And then no, and for Clovis, we just went through and renewed our contract, and we based a part of that on a revenue sharing agreement, where Clovis, the citizens here, reap back a revenue source from those ending products, those commodities that are sold. Okay, any other questions? Could you come to the mic, please?
You guys were talking about contaminated materials. I just wanted to ask, what are the most common contaminated materials that you find day in that just the public thinks, hey, that's okay to do, but it's not?
One of the most contaminated is when you have, and these two gentlemen here probably can give you a lot more examples, but when you have your third can sitting out there and you place materials that can be recycled, you put your fibers, your container products in there, fibers being newspapers, magazines, what have you, and then somebody inadvertently puts in just straight garbage or liquids that then that material is no longer recyclable because it's contaminated. Or if we use the example we heard a while ago, somebody puts a fluorescent light tube in there thinking that's the proper way to recycle it, it gets broken, and now you have a mercury waste that's in that container from the mercury that's inside the fluorescent light tube. So the biggest one is probably going to be from liquids contamination of the recyclable material.
The most contaminated product in the city of Fresno in our recycling bin is food. Second would probably be diapers. A lot of diapers. I have no idea how anybody would think you could recycle a poopy diaper, but you find a lot of those in the recycling bin. But food and diapers are our most contaminated item in our recycling bins.
Again, I'm going to revert back to Danny. When I worked for the city of Fresno along with him, we would give tours to the three facilities that everything went to. We had West Coast Waste, which would take the green waste. We had Sunset that took the recycling, and then the landfill over at IWS took the garbage. When we would have the talk at West Coast Waste that took the green waste, they always said that was the overflow barrel. So when anyone had their gray filled and their blue filled, anything that was left, they put in the green one. Now the problem with that was everything that went over to West Coast Waste went through a giant grinding machine with about a $15,000 blade that would slice everything up. The largest cost they had was the manpower to go through by hand and visually check everything that went through, because they said engine blocks, screwdrivers, sledgehammers, if that hit that grinder, it would explode, and there was $15,000 right there. So the largest expense, at least for the city of Fresno when I worked for them, for West Coast Waste, was making sure that that wasn't contaminated. Another misconception was the styrofoam boxes that you get. It has the recycling symbol on the bottom. That doesn't mean you throw that in the blue bin. That just means it was made from a recyclable material. Some municipalities do recycle styrofoam. The city of Fresno does not at this time. At one time, the city of Fresno had what we call were the recycling Nazis. It was sort of a bad name of the organization of the part where we worked, that 5 or 6 people would go out at 4 o'clock in the morning and lift up the lids of the blue bin to make sure everything was clean in there. It wasn't to give tickets and slap you on the hand to say you were being bad. It was to educate people, because 9 years ago when the city of Fresno started, no one really knew what to do. We don't have that anymore, I believe. They cut that out. At one time, the city of Fresno had the best recycling percentage in the nation. 75%, Danny? 74%. I don't know what it is now, but I would probably say it's not 75%. When I started with the city of Fresno, we had about 20 people in the recycling area. How many do you have now? 3, 4? Because of budget cuts. But we're still trying. For me, the buzzword is education. And it starts with the young people and it works up to the older.
I forgot what the question was now. My comment was typically in a buyback center, for example, and that would be Charlie's experiences. With a buyback center, contamination usually not an issue because, again, education is top drawer, most important, it's paramount. If the customer knows to separate the materials, this is in a buyback scenario, and they usually do. But the first timers, those that have never attempted buyback recycling in the past, might need some education. And that usually happens on their first visit. So the glass can't contaminate the aluminum because the redemption value is based on weight, and glass weighs a lot more than aluminum. So 2 containers per pound for the glass, 26 containers per pound for the aluminum cans. That's why it's so important that contamination be addressed at the source, underneath your sink or in your garage where you're collecting your recyclables, or out on the breezeway where you keep your 3 trash containers. Comment?
I would also like to add a little something to my little thing that I had before. So also my dad is the owner of the recycling company out on East Olive and called Recyco. Who has been to Recyco? Raise your hand. Good. And also, I also shared to my dad today that maybe when I grow up I might work for the Fiat company.
Yeah. I guess we're going to turn it back to the moderator. Is there another question, perhaps, from the audience? Is there something that wasn't unanswered, or do you want to clarify? Okay. Come up to the mic, then.
I have actually two questions. One is kind of follow up with the last question. I'm thinking about when we have parties, we have those paper plates and cups with leftover liquids and food. Is that considered contamination? And the second question is, we have been talking about the one main problem is contamination and mixing recyclables and non-recyclables. Are there any major problems in your business? Thank you.
Okay, so yes, contamination with your plates. I'm sorry, the question was, you have plates, you have a party, you have a plate, you have a cup, it's got food and liquids. Is that contamination? And the answer is yes. The food and the liquid would be disposed of from your sink, obviously if it doesn't have a greasy oil content. And then the food is something that, depending upon where you live, City of Clovis operates a food waste diversion program at which food scraps are permitted to be thrown away in your green waste container. So there is a food waste diversion program that Clovis is doing. Many probably didn't know of that, but that is something that we are doing. Otherwise, it would not be thrown in with your recyclables. It would be thrown in your trash bin. Now, the second part of that question was... Oh, what other main challenges are we facing? Clovis is, one of the things that Clovis is dealing with that is huge is scavenging. So many of our recyclable materials in our commercial businesses are being pulled out of our recyclable bins for our commercial businesses. Many of our community cleanup piles that are on your street curbs, as the economy has gone down, we have seen scavenging increase tremendously. So we are seeing recyclables being pulled out of these piles and containers greatly. So much so, the City of Clovis contracts with IWS, with Lewis's company. We currently contract with Republic, and we have had both contractors speak to a loss in revenue because of the recyclables being taken at the curb at the source.
To come back to your first question about the contamination, probably one of the easiest ways to remember it is when the newspaper you're looking at it, you want to keep it clean. Okay, when that goes into the third can. When you have that empty jelly bottle that's in the refrigerator or jar, you want to make sure that that's washed out and that's clean before it goes into the container. One of the things you want to look at is with your drink bottles. One of the things that you need to look at there is making sure that they're empty, but also making sure the cap is off of it, because now you have two different types of plastics. So again, go on that recycle often, recycle right, and you can pick up quite a few tips on how to do it properly. Problems with scavenging, it kind of comes back to one of my points earlier on sustainability of the program. The program is that the recyclables come in, they're processed, they're gotten ready for the mills. The mills give a percentage or give money back to the recycler. Part of it may go back to the city to help offset costs there. But the whole system has to work in order for it to be financially feasible for the processing company, the city, everybody involved. So it really helps to have the community do their part in sorting it properly.
Maybe I just thought that one of you guys might have a question whether I'm a boy or a girl. Yes, I'm a boy.
Something to look forward to early in the planning stages right now is a cogeneration plant, which seems unlikely for the valley, but the placement has yet to be determined. However, there is a consortium of investors that are looking to put up a cogeneration plant somewhere to serve the 3 counties. It's been debated greatly. There are some dedicated investors. What they're looking for is the contamination element in the residential recycling waste stream. That would be some of the materials that are not so commonly recognized. This would be fly, films, bags, drip irrigation waste, poly sheeting. These tend to fall through the cracks, or they get pigeonholed in a catch-all category. Well, trouble is there is no market really for that mixed resin material supply stream unless we had a cogeneration plant. Cogeneration would actually be twofold. It would also consume green waste and organics, as well as high heat yielding resins, which would also include molded toys, kitchen utensils, crockery made of resin, resin waste of all types. These are things that are in the 4% bracket in the waste stream. So that's something to look forward to. And if you're looking for a tip or a key that you might want to focus some of your robotics know-how, perhaps it would be plastics, which don't seem to be going away, and I think we're going to see more and more plastic as we move along deeper into the 21st century. The cogeneration would be non-specific with the resins, so any of them that you can think of, if it's plastic, it was probably made from oil. It's an oil-based or petroleum-based product, and that petroleum can be used one more time, reused, to yield heat in an incinerator. So if this happens, I think we're going to see a lot of the landfill problems solved. It's going to be another 25 years, perhaps longer, down the road as the scrubbing techniques improve, the methods of pulling out particulate, airborne byproducts of incineration, the smoke, which yields toxic fumes. As the methods become more comprehensive as we move along through the decades, we're going to see that ultimately as a solution, not only to the waste, to the landfill, filling of the landfill, but also to air pollution. So something to look forward to, something maybe to think about as you're making plans for your individual projects. To the moderator.
All right. Well, we have just about 10 minutes left of this. So let's have a very big and very warm and very gracious round of applause for our panelists. And this is a thank you for you. Thank you so much for doing this. And I will go ahead and release them so that you guys can come and meet with them for the last 10 minutes and ask them any other questions that maybe didn't get answered during this session. And after that, we have lunch. So thank you again to our panelists. Oh, go ahead. The microphone.
Being an educator, I was talking to the gentleman next to me. Blenders, blow dryers, coffee makers, toasters, hand tools, electrical tools. You can throw that all in your recycling bin. Did you all know that? We have Clovis, City of Fresno, has an oil pickup program. If you change the motor oil in your vehicle, the City of Fresno has special containers that you put out. Clovis has containers, or you can use your own container. You put that on your blue recycling bin, and they'll pick up that oil from you. Pharmaceuticals, we all take medicines at one time or another. Don't flush them down the toilet. All right, City of Clovis has a pickup for those. For the City of Fresno, from what I understand, Danny, unless it's changed, take your original prescription bottle, scratch off your name, the prescription number, put the pills in there, half a tablespoon of salt, fill it with water, close it, tape it shut. You can throw it in the garbage. All right? That's eliminating a lot of the problems. If you are a diabetic, we have a sharps program. Never put your sharps in any of those barrels. People take those things on the lines. People get stuck all the time on the lines at IWS. You have to be very careful. Again, it's educating the public. You learned something today. Pass it on.
Yes, and thank you. Just thank you very, very much for sharing your infinite knowledge and wisdom. So you are now released. You may go and integrate with the crowds and answer any other pressing matters and whatnot. And thank you again. And a reminder, we have an awesome taco truck. Or it's not a taco truck. It's like a food truck. They sell good food. It's pretty good.